It's April 8th, 2022, about 2:45 in the afternoon. I'm Todd Dunn. Today I'm in the boat shed, standing just next to the bow of my 1936 wooden powerboat Tortuga. And this video is kind of a tour of the boat because I just finished getting it ready to go in the water for the 2022 season. And the reason I got it ready this early is that I've sold Tortuga and she's going to be moving to a new owner. And part of the deal was that I would get the boat ready to launch. So we're going to take a look at the boat, both outside and inside. I apologize for the light levels. It's pretty dark in the shed today. It's overcast and raining. There's not a lot of ambient light, but that's the way it goes. So let's take a look at Tortuga. Here is a starboard side bow on shot showing the hull with its new coat of Hatteras off-white paint and freshly painted boot stripe rub rails, etc. And it's probably not going to show up as well over here because of a lack of light, but here is the port side of the hull. Again, same thing, new paint, new bottom paint, and I'm probably not going to walk back to the back because there's even less light back there, but we'll see what we can do. I'll walk back and see if I can show you anything else here. So sorry about the light, it's gonna probably go away. As you can see, I haven't got a lot of room here, which complicated painting a little bit. And also painting this early in the season, I ran into a problem with whenever we had a cool night after a wet day, I got condensation on the hull, and today's a good example. The hull is coated with condensation, but the shiny new paint is keeping it from being an issue. Okay, here we go. Walk back, take a quick look at the transom. You're not going to be able to see much back here because I can't get very far. There's the varnished transom, and I don't know if you can see it, but it does say the new Helm port, which I will leave off for now. Here is a view of the cabin house with its fresh coat of Epiphanes gloss varnish, and I'll see if I can't get a better picture from up on the deck. And I've worked my way all the way around and varnished all of the exterior wood. And once I get on board, I'm going to show you the freshly varnished butterfly hatch on the foredeck. Okay, I'm up on the ladder right now, looking at the aft deck, which is freshly painted with new non-skid. And you can see a little bit more of the varnish on the cabin house. And here's the view looking forward. Nice shiny Epiphanes gloss varnish. And freshly painted side deck right there. And we're going to walk forward and go up onto the foredeck. And this paint is only a couple days old, so I'm being careful. I have not yet pulled the masking tape, but I will do that within the next day or two. And this is, again, fresh paint with non-skid on the side decks. I did not repaint the foredeck. It was painted last year, and it looks pretty crummy, but that's just dirt. It'll wash off. And unfortunately, we don't have any water here in the boat shed, so I can't wash it. Here's the butterfly hatch. I stripped all the varnish off the butterfly hatch and completely revarnished it, again with Epiphanes gloss. I had never done that since I bought the boat in 2007 because it always lived under that cover and I just never took it off. So here we go, 8 coats of Epiphanes varnish. We'll take a look from here. There's not a lot of light in here, so it doesn't show up well. But that was a lot of effort to get that looking that good. And up here at the bow, We have the forward hatch, which has a day-night solar vent on it that has a solar panel that charges a battery so it'll run all night, keep the boat ventilated. And the Samson post, there is a mooring line there, and there's another mooring line going forward from the Samson post, tying the Delta 22 anchor off so that it won't move when the boat is being transported. And there's the Lumar electric windlass. The controls for that are at the helm. Okay, another view of the forward end of the cabin house. See if we can see anything over on starboard side. And probably not. Nah, can't really see much. You can see the freshly painted side deck. Cabin top here, again quite dirty because we don't have water in here to clean it. And maybe you can see the varnish a little better from straight over the top on this butterfly hatch. So I'm going to go in the boat, turn the lights on, and we'll have a look at the interior. Okay, I'm in the lower cabin now. Down here we've got the head right at the forward end. That door there goes into the chain locker, and the two doors on either side of the mirror there go into little stowage cubbies. And to port, there is a sink with cold running water. I never bothered to plumb hot water up here. And if we look aft, you can see the aft end of the cabin, which is the galley area. Straight aft on the center line is an Origo 2-burner alcohol stove with a shelf above and a little cabinet to keep your wine glasses and a few plates and the like in. And to starboard, we have a sort of desk with a series of drawers. The top two drawers on the right are actual drawers for stowage, and below that is a bin where I keep spares. I have a fan belt, oil filter, fuel filters, and a spare bilge pump in there, and some spare Raycor filters. There's another drawer underneath the desk, and the countertop there is solid white maple. And here in the galley, I just refinished the galley countertop to gloss white. And you can see there's the main power switch for the boat. And that little silver round gizmo beside it is the on-off switch for the pressure water. Here is the Dometic 40-quart refrigerated cooler, which can also act as a freezer. It's handy to stow a bottle of wine or other beverage when you're out for a day cruise. Or if you want to turn it into a freezer, you could keep some ice cream in there. And we've got a brown bronze sink, a shelf for dishes above, and one of the 3 port side bronze portholes. And there are also 3 bronze portholes to starboard. And if we look from the very aft end of the cabin, you can see there is a 6-foot 8-inch settee. The cushion is upholstered with sunbrella on each side. Underneath the starboard settee here, there are 3 stowage compartments. Let me open up the cushion. And you can see the access ports to them. Those are completely finished compartments. You can put whatever you want in there. And under the port cushion is an access to get to where the water pump is for the pressure water system. And the forward part underneath that cushion is where the bladder water tank is. And you can see that little silver circle there is the fill port for the water pump tank. Forward, we've got a cabinet on either side. Starboard side is a hanging locker, and port side is an identical cabinet with shelves in it. And there are nice high fiddles around the tops of both cabinets so you can put stuff up there and it will not fall off. At least it's never fallen off for me. Okay, now and back here again at the aft end, underneath the stove is another cabinet, and that gives access to where the bilge pumps are. There are two 1,100 gallon per hour bilge pumps, which are the primaries, and there's also a 4,000 gallon per hour bilge pump, which sits on top of the keel, just in case the two 1,100 gallon per hour pumps can't keep up. Now that pump has never come on its own. The only time it comes on is when I test it every year. And the bilge water exits out the port side underneath the galley. Okay, and there's also under there a 6-gallon water heater that's plumbed to the engine cooling system. So after you have run the engine for more than about 15 minutes, you will have hot water at the galley sink. And finally down here we have a hurricane lantern that burns lantern oil, and there is a bottle of lantern oil in the port side forward cabinet here in the lower cabin. So let's head up top and take a look at the upper cabin. I'm in the upper cabin now looking forward, and you can see that butterfly hatch on the foredeck. There's the bridge deck with the helm to port. Let's take a look at the helm. Sorry about the light, it's pretty dark in here today. At the helm, we've got a bronze wheel with teak hand grips, the Volvo Penta instrumentation from the Volvo engine. Here is the windlass control, down and up. And there's also a control to shut the engine off if the automatic fire extinguisher down in the engine compartment should go off. And I don't know if you can see it, over here we've got a circuit breaker panel and a 12-volt outlet just above that. And the little square, black square below the circuit breaker panel is the switch for the 4,000 gallon per hour bilge pump. And below that we have a Victron solar charge controller for the solar panels to keep the batteries charged up. And up above we've got a VHF radio and an Apelco depth sounder, which works pretty well. And in this little cabinet here is the compass. So I'm going to move a few things around and we'll take a look at the aft part of the cabin. Now, looking aft in the upper cabin, you can see there are large boarding doors on either side, double doors in the aft face. And altogether, there are 19 windows in this cabin, so plenty of visibility, plenty of light. And gloss white painted beadboard overhead with mahogany trim. And I've got a couple little chairs in here. I put these in because my wife doesn't like wicker, which I thought would have been more appropriate. Got a table on the starboard side. That table folds down, the leg lifts out and the table folds down. I have another table for the port side that I'm still varnishing. I think I have one more coat of varnish to put on it, and then hopefully I'll be able to install it before the boat goes south, or in the worst case I'll wrap it up and put it below. And nice settee at the aft end of the upper cabin here, and there's stowage underneath that settee that goes all the way back to the transom, and it's pretty voluminous back there. I can get in there quite easily. Well, maybe not easily, but I can get in there. Outboard on both sides we have a 20-gallon polyethylene fuel tank. These were new in 2011. Looks like we have about 10 gallons of diesel in the port tank. I think that's worth a small fortune right now. here is the starboard tank, and it looks like we have about, it's hard to say because of shadows, but I think there's 7 gallons of diesel in that tank. Now, given that Tortuga burns at most about half a gallon of diesel an hour at 6 knots, that's 17 gallons is enough for about 35 hours of running. Now, if you slow down to 5.5 knots, it's enough for about 60 hours of running. So, depending on how much you use the boat, you could get the bulk of a season out of it. Let's pan around. More windows. And forward windows. So as you can see, there's great visibility. Now there's just one thing I want to show you, and that's the engine. Now here is Tortuga's Volvo Penta D240 40 horsepower diesel engine that moves the boat. That engine was new in 2011, and everything associated with it was renewed. To port, forward of the engine is the Raycor filter for the raw water. And then we've got a battery box with the start battery and 105 amp hour house battery, and there's a second 105 amp hour house battery on the starboard side. So it has 210 amp hours of house battery capacity and a start battery. All the batteries were new 2 years ago. So there's the engine. She runs just fine, has just over 300 hours, which is nothing for a modern diesel engine. And as I said earlier, this engine sips fuel. The engine compartment is insulated with 2 inches of sound down insulation all the way around and on top, which keeps it fairly quiet in here when the engine is running. If you've watched any of my underway videos, you'll have a good feel for just how loud the engine is. And out here, we've got one of 3 fire extinguishers on the boat. There's one up here, one down in the lower cabin, and I probably can't see it because of the light, but there's also a fixed mount fire extinguisher down in the engine compartment. So this is Tortuga in April of 2022. She's all painted up, fresh bottom paint, fresh topsides paint, fresh trim paint, fresh paint on the side and aft decks, fresh varnish on the cabin house, and fresh varnish on the butterfly hatch up forward. And below, fresh paint on the cabin sole in the lower cabin, and a newly refinished galley counter. So she is ready to go in the water for 2022. Unfortunately, as I said, I won't be running the boat this year. She should be being transported to the new owner later this month or early May, depending just on when the new owner can arrange the transportation. So that is Tortuga on April 8, 2022, ready to go in the water, as I said. And it's a sort of sad time for me, as well as a happy time. My stewardship of this boat has lasted 15 years. I bought it in 2007 and did a lot of work on it to get the boat to where it is now. It's fully operational, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to sink when it goes in the water for the new owner. It's moving on to what I think will be a new owner who will take wonderful care of Tortuga, and hopefully we'll have lots of fun times aboard the boat as they cruise in classic style. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little tour of motor vessel Tortuga, 1936 wooden raised deck powerboat built in Sausalito, California by Nunes Brothers Boat and Ways Company, which is unfortunately long gone. So that wraps up this video of Tortuga. It probably will be the next to the last video I do about Tortuga, if I can touch base when the boat is being loaded on the truck for transport to the new owner, I'll try to film the boat's departure from Southwest Harbor, Maine. Thanks for watching.